Hey, welcome back to our podcast here, and I'm really excited to have the man, Bo Snyder. He's with us today, and
good to be here, Luke.
He is kind of playing dual role of co-host / producer over there. So it's really awesome. Now, of course, if you haven't yet, make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening to the podcast. Also, you can check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/mustincrease. We put everything there. And pretty much, again, wherever you listen to podcast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the good stuff. So let's dive right in today because we're really excited. We have intentionally waited until the cameras are rolling to talk about this.
We haven't said anything yet since we've been here,
other than like you texted me, we're like, hey, this was awesome. And I was like, yeah, you're right. But we haven't. So today what we're going to be doing, and we might do this might take a couple episodes, but we're going to start talking about it in this episode. We are going to be reviewing and previewing movies that have come out in the spring and that are coming out this summer. And so we're going to start with the best one. Usually you'd save the best for last, but I want our best energy here. I just got to get out of my system. I think you do too. So let's talk about what is becoming
just say it.
The movie of the year, Top Gun Maverick.
Top Gun.
You and I, actually, I think we saw it the same day. I saw it in the afternoon, and then you saw it that night.
We had to overlap, actually, which is kind of weird.
Oh, maybe, okay.
I think so.
Well, you texted me the next morning. We're like, oh, man, that Top Gun. I was like, yeah, it was good. So let's start here, though.
Okay.
Did you happen to rewatch or watch the original Top Gun before going?
Okay, yes and no. I've never seen the full movie begin. I mean, it's like 86,
Well, it
87.
came out, before we were born.
Yeah, so I've never seen it, but a guy at work said, hey, you got to watch this movie. And I was like, okay, do I have to watch the old one first? He's like, not necessarily. He gave me a couple things about, like his wingman, a couple key things like, hey, this line might be important. I was like, oh, okay. So going into it, I had seen a couple scenes. I watched like when his wingman dies and things. But
Goose,
other than that, I went into it not knowing what to expect. I mean, obviously, I was like, this is going to be great. But other than that, I was coming in blind.
So the week before, I have seen Top Gun at some point in my life. But it'd been so long since I'd watched it. And it's one of those movies, it's like, I don't even know if I've seen it all the way through. You know?
Sure.
So last week, I said, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to check it out. So I streamed it. And I'm not going to lie, unpopular opinion, I didn't love it. Like, it's...
Well,
first of all, the first hour is really slow.
Okay.
And then it's very, very much like more about the romance side of the story than anything.
Okay.
And it's almost like, let's use the first hour-ish to develop that, and then cram in all the cool stuff in the last, 40 minutes or so.
Okay.
So, and it's an 80s movie, so it's super cheesy. I mean,
Sure.
there's so much cheese and whatnot.
Well, this is what I heard going into it is, like, okay, don't hit me from across the table. Same thing with, like, Star Wars.
Okay.
For its time, Star Wars was the most incredible thing to ever be made, whatever. Of course, nowadays, like, wow, look at that, that's pretty cheap, whatever. So I was told when Top Gun came out, the whole, jet fighter thing, it was super amazing for the time.
Yeah.
Kind of special effects. Not everything was real, but they did a pretty good job for then. So, kind of one of those movies, not like it's amazing still to this day, but then it was great. I was like, okay, fair enough.
Yeah. And I think because, I mean, there's really no other movie before that was doing the fighter jet thing or anything like that.
No, probably not.
Yeah, it was, but at the same time, like, again, and I agree with you, man. I mean, first of all, this is not about Star Wars, so I'm not going to go there. Because Star Wars has been hit and miss in recent years, I'll put it that way. So I am not as avid of a fan as I used to be, but you're right. The movies, it's the same line of thinking. Like, okay, it's good for its time, but, maybe it doesn't age super well. Okay. So anyways, all that's it. Laying some groundwork there.
Yep.
So that's what I'm going into the theater with. I've heard reviews, but I'm trying not to read too much up on it. So I'm like, okay, all right. Now, I will say this. If I had anything negative to say, it would be that there was a little bit of that 80s vibe, like cheesy stuff, but they placed it there intentionally. I think they did a good job of Well, again, if you haven't, because the original's fresh on my mind because I just saw it.
Okay,
So like
sure.
the opening,
Yep.
this is a pet peeve of mine. I hate opening credits. Credits at the end, man. Credits at the end every time. Like they do the opening credits thing, and they open it almost frame for frame, exactly like they do the first movie.
I did notice that as soon as I was in the watching this one. The titles come up. I was like, "That's 80s right there."
Yeah.
Like I could tell. So I kind of liked that. I mean, that was just me.
Yeah,
but...
and like I said, I like the nostalgia factor, but I guess because it was just like so fresh on my mind, I was like, okay. It kind of makes me go, is that some of that cheesy stuff going to be there? And they did. They had some of these cheesy one-liners here and there and whatever.
Okay.
But I'm just saying that for the sake of if we're critiquing a movie, I suppose you have to throw some negative out.
Sure.
Other than that, this movie's freaking awesome.
Okay.
I loved the story is solid. The acting is incredible.
Very good plot.
Great
plot. Story. Yep.
The obviously the jets and the stunts are incredible. I mean, so all around, I was incredibly pleased. I was finding myself on the edge of my seat at times.
Okay.
Like it was good. I was a big fan.
Okay. Let's go back a little bit. When you say some cheesy things, I thought, I would say, just shooting from the hip here, there were probably 7 or 8 times like some one-line comedy. But I was like, to me, it was very well placed because sometimes when there's so much tension, kind of like with Avengers. Mm-hmm. It's very serious, and all of a sudden Tony will say something hilarious.
Yes.
Like, okay, that was perfect timing.
Yeah.
Okay, honestly, one of my favorite lines of the whole movie, where am I? Earth.
Yeah. Oh, that was great.
Okay,
yeah.
so some of that humor was, I thought, really, really done really well. Maybe it's because I didn't see the first one. I didn't pick up on some of the cheesy things as much, but I really, when I walked out, of course, me and you being the critiquers that we are, I don't know if I had anything negative to say. The only thing, and I'm actually, because I'm going to see this again. I'm going to see this again in theaters, and I'm going to kind of watch for this or think about it as I'm watching. I'm not going to give away any spoilers, but I don't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing that there was probably 3 or 4 times I thought the movie was over. And then it kept going. Okay. Kind of like, oh, okay. Well, it's
I think I see where you're coming from.
So it's kind of like, oh, they should have ended right there. Or like, then there's another crisis and another crisis. It's like, okay, did they go too long? But I mean, still phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, no... But I think maybe you see what I'm saying.
That is a good point. I think I know what you're talking about. I don't want to spoil it, but which I don't know. I've always done that. I've always tried not to spoil things on these episodes. At some point, I'm just gonna say forget it. But this is fresh enough, and I really do believe it is good enough to go see. And so I will do the honor of not spoiling it for those out there. Maybe we'll circle back to it later and just go crazy on the spoilers too if we want. But anyways, I see what you're saying. Like there was one distinct part where I was like. Because I even was thinking, I was like, that seemed to progress kind of quickly. I expected that to take longer.
Right.
Oh, it's because there's a whole other probably 20 minutes of runtime left. Yep. I see what you're saying. But no, by far, man, this is the movie of the year. I mean, obviously we're only halfway through the year. But I have seen... There's been a couple big movies come out this year. The Batman, Doctor Strange 2, which I'll talk about that here later. Yeah. And this is better than both of them by far. Oh yeah. By far. I mean, like I didn't hate either one of them. Well, sure. It's hard to say on the Batman, but I didn't hate Doctor Strange 2. But anyways, and here's what's awesome about it. Okay. It is. I love my superhero movies. I really do. I know. I'm one of the few left that's not a hater. There's a lot of superhero movies hater because they do. They get overdone. I will say that. Yep. But Marvel, in many cases, does them right. Anyways, this is this incredible movie, and it's a reboot, a sequel, whatever you want to call it. But it's not a superhero movie. Right. It's not a big sci-fi movie. It's just, and it's very American. I mean, it is so patriotic. It is. I actually read something myself on Fox about, hey, it's just a movie. Nothing in it that's no agenda,
no political,
nothing woke. Because that was my thing about Batman. There's those subtle tones of that, and that's why I love the latest Spider-Man movie so much. Yeah. Because that was a excellent movie, and it was the same way. Like there's no underlying message here. This is just a great story. Yeah. And I feel like that's it. But there's an element of patriotism
Sure,
and like Marca. You know, it was really cool. They honored the military very well.
They did.
You know, I
They did.
really
Yep.
love that.
Is there something in the movie that besides take away, you know, just because jets are cool, I mean, you know, take away that. Anything about the movie you think this was my favorite part, or something like this is what made it for me, or you can answer that in probably 5 different ways, I guess.
Actually, the first thing that comes to mind, and you know this, you could probably predict this, has an incredible soundtrack. I mean, the score is solid because they have this. Well, and you know who did it. It's Hans Zimmer. Well, they had several contributors.
Well, I actually didn't know that.
But he did the soundtrack. And so what they did is they took the original Top Gun anthem and some of those 80s music, like I said, the Highway to the Danger Zone, they're opening with that.
Of course, right.
But they're taking those tones and they're incorporating it in a fresh score throughout. I was just re-listening to the score this morning because I'm a weirdo like that.
Listen. This is super weird that you say this. This actually, I had no idea you were going to say that because I feel like I didn't notice the score hardly at all.
Okay. Well, and I nerd out on that. I really do. That's my thing.
I know you do, which is it's actually now I actually want to watch. Another reason why I want to watch it again because they're so not like this is a Michael Bay movie at all, but it's very fast. There's so much of it that there's so much happening that sometimes I tune out the score because it's, you know. So I get that's interesting. I didn't really realize there's that much in it.
Yeah.
Maybe there is. Obviously there is. But by the way, opening scene, fantastic.
Oh yeah.
I love a good opening scene.
Oh man. Oh yeah. A good opening and a good ending. We always talk about that.
Yeah.
A good opening, good ending, a couple of good moments in the middle. You got a great movie. I mean, that's really it. So, but yeah, the score was so good because, and really, it wasn't the parts that were upbeat and action oriented. It's the moments that are slow.
Yeah. Sure.
Those not slow, but like that's you can like there's just this. There's these moments where it's like this is a very serious thing. Like this is a serious mission, and how that builds. I recognized it in the movie. Again, yes, the opening credits did reveal that Hans Zimmer was the composer. So of course, that is going to influence my bias because I know he always does good stuff, but. It was one of those things where I heard it, I was picking up on it, and so I'm like, I'm going to go back and listen to it later. Like I said, I just listened to it this morning, and it's because the same thing happened in James Bond. Did you see the latest James Bond movie?
I haven't.
Okay, well, I won't.
Need to.
I will do you the courtesy of not spoiling it, but the ending is very powerful, and the score in that moment is again same thing, slow, building. Okay. Very
like the build, love the build.
Yeah, very very inspirational in that way. And there's no like big hits or anything. And I felt like Top Gun had some of those similar themes throughout the score. Okay. And again, Hans Zimmer did the latest Bond score as well. So for me, that honestly that is such a big part of it. But if we want to talk about like purely the scenes and everything. It is hard to choose these scenes when they're in these jets, man. Well, because there's just something about the raw power of these things.
Listen,
it's incredible.
Going into this, you know, of course, Tom Cruise, everything's real with him. You know, he's kind of.
He's flying these jets, man.
He is.
He is. I looked it up. Not all the time.
Not all the time.
But there are times.
A couple of them, I think he is.
There are scenes where he is actually flying. I mean, he's a pilot. Like he's a licensed pilot. He's flying these jets at times.
Oh, if you want a good laugh, I think right before they released the movie, he took James Corden.
I saw that.
That's pretty good. You can get a laugh out of that.
Yeah.
Anyway, something that really, the more I think about it, when I was leaving the theater, is once again all those jet scenes are so fast, you know, like the canyon, they're flying, you know, all that. It happens so quickly, you don't realize, I knew it was happening, but once I got out, after it was over, I was like, all of that was real. It was kind of like, there was real flying, real cameras, real canyons, real mountains, and it's one of those things that's like, so much is going on, you don't realize how awesome it is until it's like, oh, they're really doing this.
Yeah, they're really doing it.
This is a movie in the sky, almost. So it's kind of like those things. I'll appreciate it the next time I watch it more and more.
Exactly. And don't get me wrong, it's definitely got to be trained professional pilots doing that. But when you're seeing the inside, I was watching a little featurette on it. They've got cameras mounted at the front of these cockpits. Of course. And they even train some of the other actors to fly. I mean, like they got them licensed so that they could fly these jets because they want to get the real surroundings. They want to get the real, like that G-force that you're seeing in it's real. Like it's really happening.
Wow.
Probably not to the, like they're talking about hitting 10 Gs. Probably not to that extreme.
Right.
But it's still happening. And it's just.
Sidebar.
Go.
Since I was on the kick of, Tom Cruise's stuff, don't want to talk about him too much, but I went back and watched the helicopter behind the scenes of not Ghost Protocol, Fallout.
Yep.
And that stuff like when he's flying that helicopter at the end, it's all real because like he's pulling things off like Tom, like this is gonna be, and he does it, and it's just like they played a lot of the kind of like the audio of them like talking to him, like holy cow, you did it, it's just like. He's freaking out because he's actually trying to pull it off, and he does it, and like they use it, and it's just like whoa.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Yeah, we won't go too far into this, but Tom Cruise, he's a weird dude. In real life, he is one of the weirdest dudes. Scientology, deep into that, just odd.
Yep.
An incredible actor, great at his craft.
He is an absolute perfectionist when it comes to this. Like he is the best.
Did you see you had to have seen the trailer then for the new Mission Impossible?
Yes.
That stunt at the end of the trailer.
Yeah, I did see that.
He's doing he does his own stunts. He very rarely has a double. And that
I can't believe the guy's 60 years old.
Yeah. So, anyway, circle back to the movie itself. I cannot recommend it enough. Yep. It's really good. See it in a theater, though. I mean,
if
you don't see it in a theater, it's going to be lackluster. I mean, it's going to be good, but
dude, the sound itself.
The
audio itself is just it'll blaze you back in your seat. Now, I didn't see it in IMAX. I'm sure it's in IMAX.
It is, and I didn't see. The closest IMAX is like 40 minutes away.
Yeah,
so
that's true. Okay.
I wish they'd get one here in town, but but no, so I didn't. But it's still nonetheless. I mean, like I said, the pure, just like you said, it's so real, it's so raw.
Yeah.
I mean, of course they're using CG and stuff in these movies. You don't make one without it, but just to know that so much of it is practical and real is incredible.
Speaking of practical and real, once again, just because I love authenticity, it's just something that I like in films, of course you can Google or YouTube a bunch of, you do behind the scenes of that movie, hundreds of things pop up, and I had, this whole panel of before it even came out, they kind of like a soft release, they actually had a bunch of pilots, Navy people like watch it, and they talked about it afterward, kind of like this little mini panel thing, and they said, hey, like, is this particular maneuver, is this real? Could a jet do this? Like, oh yeah, you can, like, that's totally doable. There was nothing they did that is impossible to do.
Yes.
Now, they all said, that's difficult. That's the best of the best to do that. Yeah. And it was just like,
but that's the premise of the movie.
Right.
Like, this is Top Gun.
That's the thing.
They are the best pilots out there.
I really thought that was neat.
Yeah. And I mean, like the mission they had was, it was like, you could have called this Top Gun, or you could have called this Mission Impossible : Top Gun, because I mean, it was like, oh man, it seems, but just to know, again, it's just a sense of patriotism that we have soldiers, pilots out there for our military that are doing stuff like that.
Yeah.
And protecting our country and all that. We just had Memorial Day. I mean,
sure.
Which great time for them to release it over Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah.
Awesome, brilliant
Genius.
timing on that.
Yeah.
So that I don't know. It's just incredible to consider that. Yeah, this is there are people who really do this.
Right.
I mean, it's really awesome.
Like I said before, I don't know if there's anything, because most of the time in movies, like, oh, I would have changed this or I would have done this. I don't really know if I would have changed anything, because, we're all about, like, character development, like his thing with Rooster, how it's rough, it gets better, the timing of it's good. I did kind of like how the Top Gun jerk, the young pilot, he kind of gets put in his place. I kind of like that.
And I don't want to give it away, but it's a good character arc.
It is.
I love seeing a good character arc.
So I don't really know if there's anything that I would, because most of the time, Rotten Tomatoes or whatever, oh, this, whatever, but they're extremely high ratings too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Anything that you would have changed or you thought, I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, really, again, like I said, even me saying that thing at the when we started here about maybe going overboard on the nostalgia and stuff like that. I don't think it was overboard. That's for certain.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, that was my only thing was like, oh, that's just me being nitpicky. Like I said, I'd rather see credits at the end than at the beginning.
I know it. We're big into our end
stuff
credit.
like that. But no, I mean, it was just, and I feel like you can't sequel a movie that's over 30 years old and not be nostalgic with it. You have to be.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I felt it was an appropriate level. Like, there's enough homage to the original without it feeling like a complete, like, remake.
Yeah, sure.
And so I overall, great movie. Again, and again, that's another thing. I'm so glad. This movie was originally supposed to come out in summer of 2019.
Yeah.
And then they delayed it for production reasons.
Yep.
And then they rescheduled it for summer 2020.
Did he break his leg again? I don't know.
It might have been that.
But I do remember it was supposed to be.
And then it was supposed to be summer 2020.
Okay.
And then the pandemic happened, and they kept delaying it because they were so set. And Tom Cruise played a big role in that. He was so set on it being a theatrical release.
I remember that. I remember reading or hearing something to where he was like, no, we're not going to release this until it's ready.
Yeah.
And the perfect time or whatever.
And it was. I mean, it was worth the wait. It was.
Where is it as far as box office right now? I mean, I'm sure I know it's.
I guess I could. I saw that it had like 150 million opening weekend.
Okay.
Which is like the record for Memorial Day weekend.
I didn't look at the actual budget they had on that. I didn't even. Usually I look at that.
I do know it costed. I think I saw it was somewhere between $15,000 to $18,000 an hour to use the jets. To use those like that, they had to pay that to the government basically. I mean, so
no way.
And I mean, Tom Cruise don't work for cheap. So
no,
I mean,
no.
they had some.
Well, that's something else. I thought about is how many hours of flight time and prep time and.
Well, see, that's the thing that for those guys Tom Cruise has had a pilot's license for a while now.
Yeah.
But according to what I read, a couple of those other actors had to get licensed to fly because they wanted to get those close-up shots.
Yeah.
So I mean that's because when it comes down to being a pilot, it's just all about hours. I mean if you get
sure.
So they got to put in hundreds of hours, if not thousands. So yeah, who knows? I would be in, but I guarantee you this: they're making money. And it's going to be a profitable movie. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if this hits $500 million, if not more. I mean, it's because next weekend there's nothing. The following weekend after it came out, there's nothing big.
Right.
Dude, I went on a Tuesday afternoon. The theater was packed. I mean, like on a Tuesday afternoon.
Same thing, and I waited probably 15 minutes to get scanned in.
I mean,
of course had to get popcorn and all that.
Yeah.
That's why my wife goes to the theater. But
anyways, well, we have basically spent this entire episode talking about Top Gun. Had a feeling that might happen.
Yeah,
that's okay.
Yeah, we didn't really dive in super deep, but we don't want to give anything away.
No, we don't. And like I said, maybe we'll retroactively circle back to it later and talk more deeply about it. It really is a great film. So here we're going to. In the next episode, we'll pick it up and we're going to review some other movies that I think a couple of them maybe we've both seen, that I've seen. So we are going to talk about Doctor Strange 2. We're going to talk about Morbius and and we'll talk about. Wait, there's a couple others. I saw Ambulance. That is a Michael Bay film.
Okay.
A couple. Sonic 2, Bad Guys, a couple animated films. So we are going to talk about all of that in the next episode. So make sure you're subscribed, that you join us, and we will see you in the next one.